Hello and welcome to another installment of the Cookout Chat. Yes, this is episode number 3. We've had some great response already on the shows that we've had with Troy King and Laquan Jones, and also Tara Roberts and Marcus Grant. So we have already, we've raised the bar, but you know what? We're going to keep going higher, and we just, Familia. You know me, I'm Jorge Martin. You can find me at Jorge Martin 17 on Twitter. You find my work on FamiliaFFB.com, a little bit on Fantasy Points. Also, going to be having some stuff coming out on Fantasy Pro, some baseball stuff. But right now, I want to talk about the star of the show. So her name is Gladys Louise Tyler, coming straight from a Rocky Mountain high out in Colorado, as we love to say. Gladys, welcome. Thanks for joining us. How are you today?
I'm doing good, and I am thankful and blessed that you let me join you. Thank you so much for asking me. Seriously.
Oh man, well, please. We were talking a little bit beforehand. I wasn't able to take notes on everything, but please feel free to just give the lineup on everything on all the different sites that you work for.
So of course, I write for Going for Two, and I also do 2 podcasts for them, the 2 Point Conversion on Monday nights, where we talk sports, and then on Thursday nights, in no particular order, where we do mock drafts on just about whatever the guest wants to mock. Like our last one was on serial killers, and then went from serial killers to rom-coms, and the next one is 70s and 80s bands next Thursday. And if anyone out there wants to do a mock on that, just DM me, slide into my DMs, let me know. I'm more than welcome. I also write for Rotoballer, and I write for Razzball, and I do a podcast with them on Tuesdays where we talk about whatever Bobby tells me that we talk about. It changes every other Tuesday. And Gridiron Experts, I write for in season. It's the only one that I don't write for off season for football. I only write about football, NFL. So I know there's no technically off season, but in the untechnical off season, I don't write for Gridiron, just the other ones. And it's fun. I love it.
Oh, love it. Hey, you know what? I may want to have a piece of that 70s and 80s bands mock draft. So that you're talking completely my wheelhouse when it comes to bands and everything. That was my whole formative phase of bands. So you might have to enlist me in the background or something like that.
Please.
Oh, well, Gladys, I want to know a little bit, kind of a little bit of your story. What got you started in sports, and kind of like what inspired you to get into creating fantasy football content, fantasy sports content?
Well, I was always in sports, like in high school and college. I played club softball, and I originally went to Penn State, and then I transferred to U of L. When I transferred to U of L, I was supposed to run track, and before the season started, I blew out my knee, and I was supposed to go to the team doctor, and it was during the football players were all going to the team doctor, so I went to this other guy who I shouldn't have gone to, and I ended up not getting the knee fixed right. So I stopped playing sports and just started watching more sports. Big Steeler fan, whole family. My parents are both from Pittsburgh, so everything was always black and gold in the house, and I grew up with a Steelers fan, and I was working a second job, and these guys knew I was a Steeler fan, and they were like, hey, do you want to play in our fantasy football league? This was like 10, 15 years ago. And I'm like, yeah, sure. Not knowing anything about fantasy football. And they're like, yeah, it's an IDP league. And I'm like, oh yeah, of course. And I have, I'll play IDP fantasy football. Love to. And I have a really short attention span. Like, I like a lot of things. So I knew the only way that I would learn would be to write about it. And this was before Bleacher Report became what it is now. So I applied to Bleacher Report to write about the Steelers, and they accepted me. And I was like, oh, this is great. Now I can learn about football and write about football. And it was glorious to write about it, to do the research was just, it was like, you find that sweet spot and you're like, oh, why haven't I been doing this forever, my whole life? And so I just started writing, and then of course I didn't know what I was doing. So when the season was over, I stopped writing for Bleacher Report. And then when the season started again, I went back to try to write for them, and they're like, no, you kind of suck. And I'm like, That's so painful. And so I just started applying to every other site that would ask for writers, and I wrote for whoever wanted me. It was like, they're like, we don't pay you. And I'm like, I don't care. I just want to research and I just want to write and I just want to get the writings out there. And you get better. Like, you can't help but get better. You learn about everything. And it's just, to me, it's like the best thing to research, the best thing to write. I love playing fantasy. This last season wasn't the greatest season for me. I was on a couple of leagues that weren't great, but I just, from that point on, like, I can thank the guys. I'm not in that league anymore because they went to Dynasty, and I hate Dynasty leagues. Although I'm in one, and apparently I'm okay in it, but not really great because I've never made the playoff. But the guys, like, I play in 2 home leagues, and they're just the greatest leagues ever. And I love the camaraderie. I love the competitiveness. I love winning money. It's all great.
Oh, and you mentioned kind of like, where did you kind of grow as an analyst from the point where, Bleacher Report didn't ask you to come back to now you're writing for multiple sites and podcasting for multiple sites? Where have you where have you grown the most?
I think I've grown the most in research. I think, like, when you start, it's like, oh, you're at like the top line of research, like you're treading water. And now I understand, and I'm still growing, and I'm still have a lot more to learn. But I try to write, like, for Rotoballer, they're articles that they put out, and you pick them and you write them. So it's like a hodgepodge. But like for Razzball, I only write on defense. For Going for Two, I only write on offense. And for Gridiron, I write on DFS. So the growing part is trying to immerse yourself, like when I'm writing for the defense, to immerse myself in more statistics and try to blend the statistics with a good narrative that isn't like, like 2 + 2 = 4, like, make it interesting. And I think that is where the most growth I've had is just getting into the statistics more and learning more what they mean.
Yeah, it is amazing. The more,
Yeah.
kind of when you start pulling one thread and you just it's like one stat leads to another, to another, to another. It's fantastic. It's
I
fantastic.
know, it's like glorious.
Oh, it's it's kind of like you see these light bulbs going off all the time. I feel it's
How did I not know that?
wonderful.
Why didn't I not know that stat?
And then all of a sudden, it's like, but the simple ones come up, and then you're like, oh, that makes all the sense in the
It's in the
world right
world,
now.
yeah.
So it's right there.
That's
It's
what's
all right
happening.
there for us.
Yeah.
But you know what? One of the things, and this is kind of like the great part of being a part of the Cookout, is people are kind of sharing a little bit about what it's like being a minority in this community. Kind of challenges, any challenges, as well as kind of like highlights of where that people that in growing in this community.
So statistically, a double minority, both female and
Mhm.
African American. I like a couple of the sites I write on, I'm the only girl writing, right? And at times I've mentioned it, like, this is an all boys network. You've got to see my point of view, because I'm not going to write like white guys write, because I don't see the world like white guys do. I'm not going to write like black guys write, because I don't see the world like they do. I'm going to write like I see the world. And even though the statistics are statistics, how I formulate them, the narrative that I put behind them is uniquely mine. And I think that's what the fantasy world misses. And that's what kind of, I don't even know, they're not diehard people. That's what people are used to. They're used to a specific type of narrative. And then I think the narrative has to broaden. And I'm not saying that you lessen or you weaken the stats that you're given. No, everyone has a unique way of writing. Everyone has a unique voice, and you can use those stats and use your voice in it. And there are a couple sites that I write for that's not encouraged. It's encouraged that you write like everyone else, that your articles look like everyone else's articles, which is fine. I can learn to do that. But I think like the Going for Two specifically, like Jeff Lambert is the man behind the Going for Two. And I actually hooked up with them during COVID because I was not like, I'm a bartender mostly. So all the bars were closed and I was like, I really should start writing more. And he allowed me to come in, and he was the first person to say, hey, do you want, I would like for you to do this podcast if you feel comfortable doing it. And at first I was like, no, I'm not going to put my face out there. I'm not going to put and he's like, just try it. And if you don't like it, then you don't have to do it anymore. And it was him pushing me kind of to speak more and to be seen more. And I'm eternally grateful for that, because I was like, oh, I can, wear a hat real low where I don't have to show my whole face, and I can like speak and do whatever, say whatever I want. And it's a valid point. It's a valid point as long as I can back it with statistics. And I hardly ever make a point that I can't back with statistics. So I think the highlight for me is learning like to speak more, both the written narrative and the spoken narrative. It's just in a medium that I love to do. It's just, when you're allowed to do that, it's the best thing ever. I mean, you don't want to stop. It's really true. Like, do what you love, and it doesn't even seem like work. You're just, sometimes I'll start doing like one article and I'll think, oh my God, this can go for another article. Like the defensive, this is why the offense is so bad, because the defense is so good. And it's the greatest thing to be able to synthesize all that for me. Is just, I'm grateful for everyone who allows me to write. I'm grateful for you for letting me join the Cookout, and Marcus for telling me about the Cookout, and for this place to be where it's like, show who you are. It's okay to show who you are.
And you're right. And that's I think that's been one of the great things about the Cookout group is, people are encouraged to show who you are because of the need for diversity in this industry. There, because I was just at the Fantasy Sports and Gaming Association, FSGA, and we were able to, and we presented on this, and we talked about how there are more minority voices out there, but that there are more there. We really want to see more coming, and just kind of be more open for it. To see more minority voices out there, and like yourself. I mean, was that an inspiration? The fact that when you started, there just weren't that many people that looked like you and me, and definitely not that many women doing this.
I don't think I thought of it like that, because I'm not sure that I would have continued had I thought of it like that. Now I think of it like that because I think I have a greater understanding of what is going on. Like, I don't even remember, I don't know what it's called, but the fantasy expo that they do.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't go. I didn't go last year, but I saw the women. They had a women's part, but they were all white women, and there are so many non-white women that could have been on that panel that were there at the conference, because I asked a couple of them, and they said they weren't asked, and I think that is the next push. Is, yay, I'm glad that women are being more inclusive in the group, but that too needs to broaden, and so the inclusion needs to be a complete inclusion. But I mean, if you think about it, it's always been that way. How white males, black males, white females, black females. It's always in our history, in the United States history, it has been that way of how inclusion happens. So I mean, I'm sure it's going to happen. I'm sure that more females will get the word out, that we're here and our voice is just as valid. But I don't think it's that people are not including minority females. I just think that sometimes we aren't doing enough to let people know that we're here. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm almost positive that until I brought it up, the guys at Rotoballer had no idea that I was a girl. None whatsoever. I joined I joined a fantasy league this year. This guy asked me to join the fantasy league. I joined it. Then he there was a mess up, and he called me and he goes, "Yo, dude." And I'm like, "No, I'm a girl. And he's like, oh my God, I didn't know that. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. So I think a lot of it isn't that people they are trying to be exclusionary. I just think that we have to go, hey, hi, we're here and we can do this.
And I think that's you talked about being a double minority. I mean, that's the thing. Almost, I applaud just kind of the drive and the determination to do that, because there are so many. I know there are trolls out there on Twitter and on social media who are going to point out, oh, you don't know something that you didn't play. I'm like, I played, it's like, they're going to, okay, come at me. I played flag football in 8th grade and didn't play in high school. So, I just, most of the people who are doing fantasy analysis did not play at a high level. So,
right.
Just leave it there. But, as far as the cookout, being a part of the cookout group, seeing the people together,
Yes.
being a part of this, people raising one another up. How important do you see that, and kind of what are some of your goals in being a part of the cookout group?
I was very excited when I was asked to be part of the cookout group, which reminds me that the gentleman that I do the Monday podcast with, I would like him to join the cookout group if that's fine. Jay,
Sure.
He's not really active on. He lives in LA too. He's not really active on Twitter that much, but his wealth of knowledge on sports is really, really good, like way better than mine. But I think just to feel comfortable, and it's not that the other groups make me feel uncomfortable, but when you are with someone who looks like you and who has experienced the same things that you have experienced, whether it be in a high experience or a low experience, they just experience, like, to have someone say, yeah, this person said I'm not valid, or my opinion isn't valid because I'm a girl, or my opinion isn't valid, or I'm bending it way too much towards the African American. Just have someone who understands what that is, how that is perceived, is awesome. It's like representation is everything. When you see someone who looks like you and who is succeeding and who's in the struggle, it's everything. I don't even know the monumentalness of that can ever be explained. That it's so important to have people that look like you, and we're all different. Like, their experiences aren't mine, but they look like me and they are representing me in a way. You know what I mean? And that representation means everything. It means everything. It's like, oh, I don't have to be the white guy writing. I can write like you do because you are really good at this and you make a lot of sense. And that's like, and don't tell him this, but I am enamored with Marcus Grant because he looks different than everyone else on that network, and his opinions are so smart and they're so good, and he's so giving. Like, whenever, like, I'll say, hey, can you join, do you mind doing a podcast? And he's like, yeah, sure, just tell me when. Adam Rankin's like that too, but Marcus Grant is like, when I first saw him, and that's on the fantasy, I would tape it because I'm really bad with knowing when time shows are on, and it would be like, oh my God, he's like so good, and he looks like me, sort of, without the boobs, but he looks like me, and I love that. It's just, I don't think you can underscore how big representation is. I don't think you can ever underscore that. For me, for people who are trying to get in the business, for people who are already in the business, they're not alone. It's just everything. And the cookout brings that. The cookout, the chats, and everyone putting in their own podcast and everyone talking about their own work. I'm like, I got to step it up because these people are stepping it up way, way, and if they can step it up, then so can I. It's everything. It is. And I know I've said that like 6 times, but it's true.
But you're right. And, Marcus himself talked about going to a conference about 10 years ago, a fantasy sports conference. And he had 500 people at this event, and he found one other African American at that time. It's good that the numbers have been jumping, but you're right. I mean, there's that different level of comfort that, when somebody's had those same experiences as you, that I know for me, when Edwin Porras or Kendall Valenzuela or Mauricio Gutierrez, when I'm talking about them, there's that little extra, that little difference, there's that extra barrier that's just broken down just from being just from having similar experiences. And it could just come down to food culture. I mean, it's amazing like that. So yeah, that's to me the greatest thing about the cookout. It breaks some barriers, but I love the way people are lifting one another up. And you mentioned Marcus. I mean, people like Marcus, Eric Moody, Ray Garvin, Chris doesn't have to do this. He's doing all the work that, all of them are either full-time or doing as much as they want to do in the industry, but they want to see more faces. And I think that's the beauty of that, of this group. And that's why I love being a part of it. I love to host it. That's why I volunteered to host this on Familia FFB, because I love being able to, hear some of these stories. And I feel like I've made friends here. And so I think it's wonderful. Any other goal that you'd love to see come out of this group for you?
Out of the group, I just want to write more. I want my writing to be important. And I guess everyone does. It's the goal of everyone. But I'm so competitive. I'm so competitive that
That's
I'm like,
beauty.
I know. I'm like, I want my writings to be better than such and such. Or I want my podcast to be better than such and such. So when I see, like, I was watching The Wonder Kid today, like going off on about Lamar Jackson. I'm like, oh my God, I want to bring that much passion into what I'm doing, because he is very passionate and he's very knowledgeable and he combines passion and knowledge. I want to do that. And that's what the cookout does for me. It boosts my incentive to be better. It boosts my incentive that people are doing what I do that look like me, and they are really damn good. And that they're not getting more air is kind of depressing, but I think they will be, because I've seen some of the videos that the people have put out there, and they are just impressive. I'm like, I've got to be that impressive. I've got to step up my game. I love the cookout, because now I'm gonna have to step up my game. And I don't like it on Rotoballer. It's kind of the same thing, but it's kind of like and I mean no disrespect about this, but it's like an old boys network. It's like, the guys have been together for a long time. The guy that brought me into Rotoballer is no longer there, so it's like a whole new bunch of people, and I want to be better than them, but it's like it's a different kind of competition. Do you know what I mean? It's like I'm going to be better than you because you don't think that I can be better than you. And in the cookout, it's I'm going to be better than you because you are helping me be better than you. You want me to be better than you. And it's that kind of dichotomy, and that I fight with, but I like it because it does make you better.
Awesome. Well, last question.
Okay.
What has been something that some advice, motivational speak, something that somebody's given you to kind of keep you motivated to keep going and keep creating content?
So this is going to sound really weird, but last season, I was writing an article. I was on a weekly article for Rotoballer, and they took the article away because they said it wasn't exactly what they were looking for, but I could write like one-offs, and that was my motivation last season. I'm like, oh, so I'm not that good. okay, let's just be that much better. And I think it's the competitor in me. Like if you say, hey, you kind of suck, I'm like, do I? Okay, then I'm not going to suck anymore because I'm going to be better than that. So that was probably the thing that motivated me last season. The best advice someone ever gave me in this was that you never ever give up. You never ever quit, no matter how. Like I have gone through some serious writer's blocks where I'm like, I can't get this story out. I can't. I don't know what to do, and you never quit. You just keep grinding because once you stop, once you allow yourself to think, I cannot do this, then you are making a self-fulfilling prophecy and you're not going to be able to do it. You grind and you grind and you grind. And if you love it, the grind isn't really that bad. You know what I mean? Even on my writer's block, the grind isn't really that bad. You keep working towards the goal. And even if the goal looks like it's getting further away, you are making incremental steps. So never, ever stop doing what you love, no matter if people say you're bad, if people say you can't do it, you know what you can do. Don't let other people define what you can do. Only you can do that.
Truer words have never been spoken. That's absolutely fantastic. That's fantastic, Gladys. I've had a great time. I mean, this is the first time we've shared a screen. I've really enjoyed it. I feel like I made a new friend. So
I feel the same way.
Thank you for doing this. And so one more time, why don't you point people to where they can find your great work?
So come see me. Just come to Twitter. Join my Twitter. I usually tweet out the articles I write. Rotoballer, we're doing a lot of draft stuff and a lot of free agency stuff. I'm doing and the offensive coordinators for Going for Two, the defensive coordinators for Razzball, and what's up?
That's good. That's good stuff.
So come see me. You make comments. You know, I enjoy. If you think I can get better somewhere, tell me. And if you like it, tell me. And then, like I said, if you want to mock draft something, anyone's welcome. Like the guys that are mock drafting now are not guys that are in the industry. They're just guys that I know from the bar. And the musician is the one that picked the 70s and 80s band. It's Ralphie will be doing it. So come join us. I love to have you, and I love to include as many people as possible to get their face out in the internet zone.
Oh man, well I'm a big U2 fan, so that's gonna be one of mine. But I've also got a major soft spot in my heart for Earth, Wind, and Fire. So and if Prince and the Revolution counts too, I'm gonna beat the drum for all of them. So I'm gonna yeah, that would be that would be amazing. That would be amazing. Oh, Gladys, thank you for doing this. Everybody, Familia, keep following the Cookout group at the Cookout group on Twitter. You can find me at Jorge Martin 17. Also, please, when you get a chance, if you can give us a like and subscribe on Familia FFB on YouTube, that'd be a big help. We'd really appreciate it. Lo agradecemos mucho, as we like to say in Spanish. So one more time, for our guest, Gladys Louise Tyler. I'm Jorge Martin. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Peace out. Salud.
Have a great weekend.